for the reasons that I gave this morning. Another reason, a nice plus will be an elevator. We've been asked about that for years. We looked at building a tower at one time. Dwayne's going to talk about different plans that we've had through the years and how we ended up here. But we talked about building a tower in the corner of the building that would actually be an elevator that would access all levels. And if I remember right, Dale, do you remember dollar amount? Okay. This is there's a big disparity. Do you remember? Yeah, this is a big disparity, but it was either 200 or 500,000. It was a lot of money. Just to do that, we walked away from that because of that price. Now, also, the steps in the front, that is a big negative to people coming into the building. So those are some of the primary reasons why. So, Dwayne.
I just wanted to share a little bit about why we are looking at renovating versus exploring some other options. And the main reason there is that we did explore other options, and the Lord really closed the doors on those, including we had looked at some property where the building, Lebanon Building Supply, at one point we were interested in that right across the railroad tracks over in northwest sector. And then so to renovate those buildings and all of that just was an absorbent amount of money plus the property, and that was pretty clear that we were not going to be able to do that. At one point we had looked at what it would take to renovate this level of the church and just make this a much bigger sanctuary, including going east and west out of here. And when we looked at that, that was certainly a project that was doable. However, it would take away the children's ministry space, and we would have to be out of the building for 6 to 12 months. And that was just something that we didn't feel like it was reasonable to do at the time, as well as what would we do without the children's ministry space, without having, if we eliminated this whole side to make the sanctuary bigger. So we quickly realized that that wasn't an option. So then we started looking at some other buildings in the area, and one property that became available, some of you know part of this story, was the Lebanon Hack building behind us before the city had purchased it. In October of 2019, we were a Sunday away from having this conversation that we're having today. We were one Sunday away from having this conversation with you about purchasing the Hack building. We were that far into it with them. That was just like today when we mailed out a letter that Tom's, it was exact transcript from Tom's talk this morning. This is the letter from 2019 that was going to go out to the church body as well. So we were planning on purchasing the Hack building, again, completely if the Lord provided through the congregation, and then renovate the first floor over there and make that the sanctuary, etc., and all of that. However, that at the last minute that fell through. One of their funders of the Hack stepped in and wanted to go a different direction with who they were selling it to, and of course they ended up selling it to the city, and now the police and the mayor and all the city offices are there. And so that ended that journey there, and we just went into a time of praying where we didn't really have any plans to move forward for at least 2 years before we thought, well, what haven't we considered about how we can make this different? Maybe consider looking at putting the sanctuary upstairs here, or even looking at the basement. And so that's how we got into the conversation with our friends from Funk & Sons, and they presented some ideas to us about 18 months ago, I think. Was that far along? Yeah. Some 12 months ago, where we started talking with them about what it would take to use our current existing building and then just renovate. One of the things, though, that we really want to preserve is the accessibility from the street into the church. where those that are coming in from the church, where everybody walks in on the same sidewalk, where everybody comes in together, where those that come in, that walk from the city, or if they drive in, you're coming in together, and there's not a disparity between that people would have to walk by a whole parking lot full of fancy cars or that type of thing. Are you following me on that? Where at our church, somebody can walk across the street, come from across the street, walk right in the building without there being just disparity between the people that come to the church. And this really provides for that. You know, in the Old Testament, it says when you make decisions, consider the poor. And Moses, in the conversation that happened between Moses and his father-in-law. And that is so, so wise. That is the heart of God. And using this building, keeping this building, really accomplishes that for us. And so we're excited to see what the Lord does. And these gentlemen are going to speak about the plans that we have been working on for the past 12 months. So come on up.
All right. Are you ready? You are? So you guys come on up. This is Steve and Nathan from Funk & Sons. Say hi, Steve and Nathan.
Hey.
Look at that.
Good evening.
It is. I will say it's been an awesome process working with you guys. And as Pastor Dwayne said, we kind of just gave this to them and said, here's the building. What are the options? And the options that they came back with that we liked the best and thought was the most usable for our building was the option that we are presenting this evening and the pictures that you saw this morning, and then we'll work through those again. So, Derek, if you could bring up the stuff from the front of the building, and these guys know what they're talking about. I don't, so we're gonna let them work through a lot of this and just kind of explain the building. For those that like building plans, this floor and the basement building plans are back here in the corner. Right. If you look at that and understand it, it's very helpful to see the overview of the entire project. So I think this is for me, and as you heard the other guy say, Derek, do we have option B? Because that's actually, did I send you option B? Yeah, keep going. Those first three you can get rid of. Yep, there it is. Okay, so this is the view that I think we saw the first time and were, wow, that, gives a nice look to the front of the building, makes it more accessible from street level, but still preserves the integrity and the look of the front of the building. That was kind of important. We didn't want to, I can't tell you how many times people come through this building and they say, I went to school here when I was little. And that's, so we wanted to preserve the integrity of this building because it's a beautiful building. So, guys, this is the front. Nathan, I was told you're the talker.
All right. Well, I can kind of walk things through here, and we take a look. One thing I will have to do, I'm going to have to step forward a little bit so that I can see back and make sure I'm seeing the same pictures that you are. So one of the ideas is trying to maintain the integrity and the history of your building. That was the whole idea of this, because a lot of people have been using this building. There's a lot of history, and the best way of being green and recycling thing is to reuse everything that you possibly can, but beautify it so that it remains to be part of the city fabric, and it remains part of the congregation, and it remains part of the history. So when you do that, when you're looking at the building, you're maintaining a lot of the structure that's here, but then you're taking these steps, which on the north side of the building have never been a great idea because they've never really been ice-free in the wintertime. No matter what we do, you can salt it, but it never gets any sun. So those steps have always been a bane of some of its existence. So the idea was we were providing a more welcoming entrance, and I can explain that a little bit better on the floor plan. But you can see here as we walk down the sidewalk, right here is where the steps are, the ramp's coming up along here. And we're going to walk right down the sidewalk, and then you come in at the bottom side at the same level that everyone else is. So we're creating a nice, welcoming entrance right off the sidewalk for everyone, no matter who. So if we want to flip to the next picture. All right. This is some views, and then we'll kind of walk things through. As soon as you walk into that glass entrance, and then you turn the corner, right now you're used to seeing the 3 doors. We are actually taking that entrance out and providing a stairway that goes up and a stairway that goes down. Okay? Then we're taking those 3 entrances and moving them further back. So you can see right now you've got your stairs up, stairs down. There's a nice little meeting area over here, and off to the side is actually access to an elevator. That elevator would take you not only from this floor, right at the sidewalks, up to this entrance level, also to the 2nd floor level, and down to the basement level. Even another 4th floor. So there's multiple stops that elevator is going to be stopping at in this building, and we can show you that as part of the floor plan. We can flip to the next page. If you were standing here looking out in that direction, you're used to seeing the 3 arches from the chapel itself right here. We'll maintain that same arch type feel going to the outside. Here, this is where the 3 arches are now. We plan to open that up, move those arches in, and we're creating a smaller chapel. As part of that, I'll explain on the floor plan how that's going to look. You want to flip to the next one? That just shows some people walking out. Okay, here's a view that we'll come back to a little bit. And this is when you go downstairs and we start making a worship center as part of the entrance. From the entrance, down the steps, into the gym, and then we'll make the worship center. We'll come back to these pictures after we can flip and walk through the floor plan. So we want to hit the next screen. Okay. Next screen. Next screen. Basically, we're just walking around the edge. Next screen. There we go. Don't you wish it filled up that quickly? You probably didn't know that Tom and Miles and Dwayne and everybody wore the same white shirt. Lego Tom. Okay. Next screen. You have the floor plan? Oh, okay. We just have to flip a coin and see which one we're going. While we're doing that, and we're looking at the floor plan to be pulled up, when we're looking at these areas here, if I'm going downstairs, down the steps, walking into the gym, all right, you have a platform that goes the whole way around. That platform is on a raised level, all right? So you have a sub-level in the basement and then the gym level. This is a view from the gym level because this sub-level, which goes the whole way around the building, is actually the platform level. So that when you have access to that platform level, you have access all the way around the perimeter of the building. This particular picture shows you a view from the front seat. I know no one likes to sit in the front seat. I could see that because 4 are empty right now. So when if you happen to be showing up for the front seat, you would be sitting right in front of the platform, looking up, and then this is what you would see for the front of the platform, which is actually going to be on that side of the building. So you would come in, turn to the left, and you're going to be underneath these rooms over here, these classrooms. We're actually going to provide the space where the platform's going to be. So if you're sitting right here in the middle of the room, you're going to be right about there. We're actually going to open this area up with all the walls. It's where the old locker rooms used to be in the building. So we're going to repurpose the locker rooms. Now they can be the performance platform. So we'll be able to take a lot of activities here. Plus, it's a reason why some of this is actually stepped. Because in those old locker rooms and stuff, there's a lot of concrete. So if we don't have to tear it out, we might as well use it as some steps and some platform access. So we've got a nice little platform here, and then your seating. And if we want to, we could go back a screen. Okay, there we go. Now, right there, that previous picture, we were sitting right here, right in those four little people right there, looking up on the platform. Now we're actually looking from the raised level. When you first come down and it goes around the bottom of the gym, okay, the gym floor is down here, out in here. This is the raised platform. It will be set up on risers, similar to stadium-type seating. And then you would be able to see out over top of the heads of the people that are sitting on the gym floor. This does mean that you have a couple columns. We're going to take a few columns out, reinforce them, and make sure the floor is held up. That way, if you're up here getting some drinks and things like that, you're not going to be rocking and rolling, and the roof's not going to fall down on you. So here's another view. As you walk across the platform looking straight in, this column here was removed. There are a few columns that are existing. How many people have noticed those downstairs? Yes, but that's okay. What happens is we tried to go through and saying in each one of the seats we have a clear view looking right through theirs. There are a couple chairs every once in a while that if you happen to be in the right spot, you might line up with that column. And that might just be the day I say, wow, I don't really want to look at Tom today. Maybe I'll just come over here and maybe I'll look at Miles today. I don't know. So there are a couple columns, and there's no way to get away from those because they hold the whole building up. All right? So you can't take out too many of them. One or two we can work with. The rest we can't. So here you can see as you took the empty chairs and filled it up with people. So it's a nice view. Even when you're on the upper level, you can now see over top of everyone's head because we elevated the seating, and you're higher than the people on the gym floor. So that gives you a nice clear view towards the platform. This is from the far corner towards the cafe and towards the kitchen, where you have the raised platform right here, and you're looking down towards this corner. In those areas where there are a couple columns, here's an example. If you're seated right in this area further back, we're going to be looking at a couple monitors, TV monitors, similar to this one, a little bit bigger maybe, so that we can reinforce and you can see the face of whoever's on the platform and whoever's speaking at the time. So as you get to those corners that have a couple blind spots because of a corner every once in a while, we'll have reinforcing monitors right there so that you can be able to see. Yes?
So those seats that are raised up stadium style, are those kind of permanent, collapsible, or as long as you're going up,
Right. Yeah, we're building in the risers. The type of seating, we still have to have those discussions and determine that. So we're still flexible there. Okay. All right, we flip back one more screen.
You want to mention that those, back to that last picture.
Okay, if we go back, there we go.
Those metal railings are not going to be used. The existing wall is what will be the railing.
Correct. Yes. How many people remember the wall that's down there? Comes up to a little below, about between your knee and your waist height. All right? Right there, we're going to basically be reusing that wall that goes across here, so we won't have these particular rails. There is an issue where we have to get a little bit more height, but we can actually put the glass rails across so that we can get the correct code clearances so that no one can fall over the edge and still maintain your visibility because you can see right through. But you don't have to have it's not going to look like the stadium and have those metal rails. Okay, next picture. Hey, we've got a floor plan. The magic has happened. So if we can flip one more, that will take us to the first, there we go. Oh, too far. That's the basement. Keep going. There, that's this floor. Okay. All right. Let's walk in on this floor. Now, everyone imagine you're out on the sidewalk. You just walked in, whether you're walking from anywhere in the city, parking out on the street, parking in the parking lot, parking in the other parking lot, parking where you're maybe not supposed to. But anyway, you're here. So that's the important thing. You're going to be walking down the sidewalk, and coming in this direction or in this direction. Right here is the existing steps. We're going to be tearing those out, removing all that structure right down to the sidewalk level. Once you do that, you're going to come in these doors, walk in on this space, and you're going to be able to walk straight in on a floor. That floor is brand new, so that you're going to be at sidewalk level. That particular spot, that's the picture where you saw you were looking up these steps and down these steps. Off to the right-hand side was a nice little cafe seating area. Off to the left-hand side was the elevator. So if you don't feel like taking the steps, this is the direction you want to go. If you feel froggy and feel like the steps are great for today for the exercise, all right, we can go up the steps here or down the steps. Since we're on this floor and everyone's familiar with this space, let's continue on this floor. So we come in the doors, we talk and we greet people. We either take the elevator and jump off the door, or we take the steps. We come up the steps, and here you're coming through those 3 arches right behind you. We're taking those 3 arches and removing them and relocating to this spot. All right, so you're basically about 3 columns back, about where the speakers are. Okay? When you do that, this becomes a wall with doors. The front part remains a chapel. You maintain the history. You get about 200 plus seats, and you have a nice space here so that you're maintaining the integrity of what you're familiar with. Great for smaller events. Then, from that point back, we're opening that up so that it can be a cafe, gathering, and greeting area, a large narthex lobby space, so that you can all catch up before and after the service, and you can meet and greet everybody. So that gives a nice open space and feel. Also coming from this point, you'll be able to come out through these doors on either side, and some people didn't realize this floor that you're sitting on right now is about 20 inches higher than the hallways. It sits up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the platform right here, open these doors up, build up the hallways a little bit so that we can have ADA accessible bathrooms on this floor, right off of the gathering space and the cafe. Then we'll have a ramp that takes you back down so that you have access from the elevator up and down the ramp, and it makes the rest of the building accessible all the way around. Then no matter which way you're coming back, you have a ramp on this side. A ramp on this side takes you back to the elevator or takes you back to the stairs. If you don't happen to be coming back to this spot, you could actually take the steps down, go in the existing stair tower, and exit that way. It would bring you right back onto the same floor here and take you down, and you could exit out the side. On this stairway, the same thing. It allows you to come in, go down the stairs, and exit. Okay? So what that does is it gives you as accessibility for the cafe, maintains the chapel and the integrity of what you see right now, gives you access for ADA bathrooms, and provides accessibility to the rest of this level. Okay? All right, if we flip to the next page. Now this one is the basement level, or the gym level as everyone says. That kind of reminds them of that. When you come in off the front lobby, you go in, you either come down the steps or you come down the elevator. When you first come down the steps in the elevator, you are actually going to be at the higher level, okay, that goes all the way around the perimeter. So you could get off the elevator, come over here, and you have an accessible walkway to get to the back of the platform, the green room space, all this area here, okay? So now that platform is accessible right off the elevator. It's accessible for anyone that wants to come up and move across. You can also come down and come in. There's a small area here underneath the floor that we just built from the sidewalk. So we're reusing the space down there so that we can have a nice gathering space here with its own little bathroom. You can also come down the steps and go off in this side, which come down the steps, turn to your left, and go down these steps and enter into the gym floor. You may just want to come into this level and come across. That gives you access to the rest of this raised floor, okay, which is also accessible from the elevator. So the idea is we're trying to pick up all those multiple floors in your building so that if you are limited in mobility or have a wheelchair or a walker, or just the arthritis is bad that day, You can use the elevator and still have access to the lower level. That lower level becomes the main sanctuary worship space. So we come down, we've got the floor seating in this area here. The platform is right over here, which is really right here in the center of the building, right where the old locker rooms used to be. So we can open this up, nice platform, full steps, accessibility, raised platform, so it works out very nicely. You can come up and down the steps if you need to get up to the raised floor level, or if you can't because you have a wheelchair or walker, you could get back on the elevator again and still get up to these floors. In addition to that, this is the raised floor area. So these are raised floors seating, and that's raised floor seating. All of those areas are on platforms that step up so that you have good visibility. Then, if you're viewing from here, you can look this way. See how each one of these views lines up to the platform. Okay? Even over here, if you want to look at that as being the nosebleed, that's the farthest seat, but you still have a good view right through here, right to the center. Right between the columns, everything's set up and ready to go. Once you have outside the seating area, there's an area here where the kitchen area, we're still trying to maintain that. You still have your back stairs, and you still have access to the bathrooms. Okay? Yes, well, that's right. Steve was telling me renovated bathrooms. So I think they might need it. They're functioning, but they do need a facelift, I believe, and a few fixtures. So we'll come back through here, we'll modify these, put some doors on here, and then renovate all those bathrooms. In addition to those bathrooms, all the way back at the beginning, if you happen to come down and you were coming off the elevator, you can come in and there's 2 handicap-accessible unisex family-type bathrooms right here when you come down off the elevator and if you're using that space. So it's a convenient location here and here. All right. If you're part of the worship team, you can come back through. You can actually work on the platform. There's a way you can get from side to side. So there's a hallway that goes along the back, and we're actually opening up the old entrance from the locker room so that there's still an exit out of that little hallway platform that goes up right there. And that way you can go from side to side. So if you get confused, exit stage left or exit stage right, you can just zip around the hallway and make up the difference. And they won't even know it. So here you can see you're going to have seating on the gym floor and seating here. Right now, you have about 420, I believe, seats up here on this particular location, right now where you are. When you come downstairs, I believe, I'm going to check my note to make sure, we have, hey, I was preempting. You have 437 when I counted all the seats when I walked in the door. When we are down here just on the gym floor, we will have 410 seats. Pretty much all the seats that you have up here, okay, except for 20, will fit in the gym floor. Then you have all the seats in the raised seating area, so that ultimately you have 896 seats possible to be able to bring people together on the services. So you have the opportunity to have a worship service with 896 seats if you use the main floor and the raised seating floor in those areas. Okay, so that'll be a big change where you can actually worship more people at the same time. All right. Oh, Steve always has those little amenities that are really great. The floor, and he's going to steal his thunder. I was going to let him talk about this. But on that floor, all right, you're actually going to be adding heating and air conditioning systems so that it's completely climate controlled on that floor. So that'll be a big change when you're down there. We're also trying to maintain the windows and then do a series of blackout shades so that you can still do projection and things like that. There will be upgrades for AVL, audio, visual, and lighting systems, so that you can actually provide a lot of the same things that you do here, but it'll all be set up down here in a permanent space. Okay? All right. Right now, we can flip to the next page. There it is. Now, on this one, there's not a lot of squiggly lines or green text because upstairs, we were trying to keep that as minimalistic as possible. The idea, though, is that you can see when we come up from the entrance lobby, you're coming up to the second floor level. You come up with the elevator, you come out onto the corridor, and now you have access around the building. And then you can continue to renovate that space as you need to in the future. But you've provided accessibility to all the floors in your building, and it gives you access to the second floor for anything that you want to do in the future. And it is part of the library, yes. So we did carve a corner out of the library right here. But besides that corner, the rest of that space stays pretty much the way it is. Yes? Correct. There is a space here in the back. Notice, remember about where you're seated, there's a wall that goes across there with the 3 doors in it. From that point back, we're actually adding a ceiling. So this balcony area would be still accessible. The rest of the balcony area would be part of a space that's back there. You would not be able to see down into the chapel. So you'll have a ceiling there as part of the worship gathering space. Okay? Yes?
So, I'm from a church many years ago, and they did those things, and the acoustics all became very echoey. Just wondering how that might... Yeah. How can you... Can I inject...
Well,
We want a microphone. One thing. We have a lot of people online watching, so we need questions to be on. Just use mics.
My question is just about the acoustics. So I'm hoping they wouldn't change much in this room per se, but down in the basement, I wonder how you can predict or what would it be like. I mean, it's a gymnasium down there, so I'm thinking echoes. That might be a problem.
right. What happens is you're going to be coming in and you're going to be building a lot of things. You're also adding step seating. You're adding cushion chairs. You're adding a lot of things that are sucking up some of those acoustic waves and the reverberation. In addition to that, when we get into this space, it is a little unpredictable because of the way the columns and the beams and everything are there. You have sound panels in the ceiling already which help dampen things. And if we need to add some, we can see how live the room is, and then we can actually add sound panels to help break up that sound. But the nice thing is that you're actually adding walls in different levels which help break things up. When you break that sound up, it really cuts down on the echo. One of the pictures. There we go. Perfect.
So there's already, we've anticipated there's sound panels shown on the wall there. Not sure what they want. They think those need to be studied.
Right. Yeah, you have them on the ceilings, and then we're adding some on the walls. And then that can change based on how live we want the room. Okay?
Check. I think we have a considerable amount of sound paneling already in the basement. Guys, Tom and Dwayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was none when we moved in, and there is a considerable amount to cut down on just basketballs bouncing and that kind of noise. And so there already is a considerable amount of sound paneling down there that will be reused and added to if needed.
Right. Okay. Now, as you can see, we walk through the floor plan. Some of these pictures might make a little bit more sense. So if we're kind of flipping through them a little bit, you can see this is from the view of the raised seating area. Looking right here's the area where we'll be coming in. The elevator would be coming out right here. And then we'd be looking towards the platform.
Two columns that are on either side of the stage. We're actually going to thin those down.
Okay. Right. Right. Okay. You're not all expected to have that same haircut, by the way. Okay, this is a good picture to show. Even from the farthest corner, all the way back over here at the bottom of these steps, when you're seated up here in the raised seating area, you're going to be viewing out, so any speaker on the platform is right here. There's a little tough to see some of the people that might be way back in the platform, but when that happens, here's a good example of right here on this column, there'll be a monitor, which then provides you a view straight on from the platform, so that you can see whatever's happening on the front. And if there's someone back here that you might not be able to see, you're going to be able to see them right here, but still be able to engage with the speaker right from those seats. Okay, next picture. This is on the gym floor, looking up, basically right below where Tom's at right now, looking up towards the platform. Yes, what Steve was mentioning there, the main floor level, or the raised floor level, is this level right here. Then there's a step up on the stage platform area right here. So there's still lots of discussion on what might be up there, instruments, drums, people. Who knows? There's still lots of discussion that we're going to be taking through for the project. Okay? All right. That's a view straight on. This is a good example when you start flipping through the cameras, depending on whether you're doing a front camera, side cameras. These are the views that you could see in the monitors. Those are also the views that you'll be seeing online and when you're looking at the online service type thing. Okay. This view, if you flip back to that one right there, so this where we're trying to show the worst case scenario. On the gym floor, it's level. If you were all the way in the back row looking through and all the chairs were lined up and that person just happens to be taller than you, you're still being able to see the speaker. So that's one of probably the worst views on the gym, because you're all the way back, and if you're a little bit shorter and someone's higher in front of you, then that's what you're going to have right there. Hopefully it's not someone with lots of puffy hair. So. But the nice thing is you have a little bit of space, so you can always shift off to the side, and then your view is right back again. Okay. So right there, we've walked through the floor plans, walked through some of the pictures and the elevations. We talked a little bit about air conditioning being on that floor. Steve, did you want to add some things?
Just say that the space that you enter into off the sidewalk would also be air conditioned, fully conditioned. So, I think there's another reason why the stage is at 2 levels. It's at 2 levels because there's a lot of concrete towards the back side, and it's a cost-saving feature. We could explore maybe, making it 1 level, but I think it would be not in our best interest at this time.
I think we've got lots of volunteers for sweat equity. Anyone interested in a sledgehammer or a jack? How about hauling buckets? No volunteers. I didn't see any hands, not one. All right. Oh, 30 years ago. Well, you just have to work 30 times slower, but still do it anyway.
Yeah.
All right, great. Oh,
All right.
there was
Tom,
a question.
Do we want to wait for questions? We want to take some? Cool. But I'm just going to bring the microphone around just so we all.
What is the capacity of the elevator?
Okay.
It's
Is that a 5,500 or 5,000 or 45?
35.
See? That's a good question, because we didn't actually bounce that one back and forth to see what the final pricing was worth.
Right.
So a 3,500-pound elevator. So you've got about 1 to 2 wheelchairs and a couple people.
The raised level seating that's down in the
Sure.
new sanctuary part, is that all the same level, or does it go up like in a regular theater?
Every riser steps up. So there's actually 3 to 4 risers that go stepping up. So every one of the seats as you go back through will actually be higher. So you'll be able to see over the head of the person in front of you. And that happens on both sides. Okay.
I have one question for you guys, and then some for the pastors, unless you'd like me to wait till later for that. But the riser seating,
Yes.
is it going to be straight across, or is it going to be broken up like this? We're going to have to like climb across 20 people if we want to sit, or like.
Actually, no. Typically what happens is you go about 15 to 18 chairs max, and then there's an aisle. So when you're looking at that floor plan, there would be a center seating, and then there's 2 aisles, then there's more seating, and then there's corner aisles that go in on the corners. So you're going to have 4 aisles going across the long side, and then you would have 1 to 2 aisles, one on either side, plus a middle aisle going on the short side. So you're not going to have to climb over lots of different people to get in and out.
Be no worse than us right here.
So, okay, 10. You have a few more seats than you have in this row right now. And the nice thing is we can rearrange that any way we want.
I just had a question of style. In this room, it's very, the woodwork and the paneling, and I wasn't sure how that's going to be. So this room will still be kind of the same old, but the style everywhere else would be very modern looking. Is that how I understand it correctly?
A lot of that is discussions. We're trying to keep the pictures pretty generic because there's a lot of discussions that we have to take in that. The idea in this space is to maintain the woodwork, relocate, patch and repair, make sure that it maintains the integrity and the history of this space. Then when you actually get to the gym, which is then going to become the worship center, that's going to be a little more modern type feel because it's kind of just big boxes and squares and rectangles. And then you've got your entrances and the other renovations. Those are kind of like a mid-range. So you're trying to maintain some integrity, but you're also bringing in a lot of modern type look. So you're going to have 3 different ways of looking at your project. They're not all going to be the same. And then we'll figure out some of the final details as we work through the project. And then I'm sure we'll be back and talking to you again with some other pictures. Okay? Yes?
Will we still be able to use it as a gym, or will it always be as a sanctuary? Because I'm thinking about our youth group and all the activities we do. So where is that going to take place?
Okay. That question's going to be addressed a little bit later.
Yep. Good question, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looks like we have 1 or 2 hands in the back. Miles is very good at working right back through the seats.
Will the floors be revamped or perhaps even replaced?
In terms of the floor finishes?
Yeah.
Okay. The wood flooring and things and the carpeting, we're trying to maintain the integrity of what's up here. The flooring out in the gathering area, we're still investigating that, but it'll be nice to refinish the wood. Some of the other floors will need replaced because we're changing so much, and then we'll be picking some new materials. And the gym floor, basically you have that downstairs. That's not going to change too much, except be changed for the colors for that. On the raised platforms, that's still up for discussion as part of the meetings in terms of what type of finishes we end up putting on those raised platforms. So the key thing most people ask is the lobby's going to get some new finishes and those bathrooms get new finishes. So, yes?
Will the kids ministry hallways remain as they are now? And how are they accessed on your?
Okay. If we flip through the one more, if we go back a floor plan, and I think that was the same floor. There we go. All right. Now, I don't know where every one of the kids' classrooms are as you go through, but the idea is that we're not really changing much of the classroom space. What we're doing is we're carving out some areas here and here for bathrooms, and we're providing accessibility, and we have ramps so that you can access those from the front, coming up through the hallways, from the elevator, from the stairs, in those locations.
And we provided for doors for security.
Okay, yes. The area here, when you come up off the main cafe gathering space, we have the doors here, and right at the bathrooms, right here, we're putting control doors. So those doors then, once you can't get past those doors into the children's wing, into those classrooms, right here. Can't get past here unless you have the access to get through those doors. So that provides you access to these classrooms, but it also provides the security to those classrooms. And then up on the second floor, those spaces are pretty much accessed from the stair tower and from the elevator, like they are now. Okay? If you keep the questions coming, Miles is going to get all his steps in for the whole day.
Okay, so I am a nurse. I'm by far not an engineer, so let me just throw that out there. But I'm a homeowner, and one of my concerns when I went to buy a home was water in the basement. So I know we're on an elevation here. Moving into a basement area, is there any concern? Has this building ever had water in the basement? Because if it would be a concern, we wouldn't really have a place to worship. I just wondered.
Right. Everywhere in Lebanon had some water at one time. So you have a series of sump pumps around your building, and they're all maintained and hooked up, and whenever you do get any water, it actually is in those sump pumps as part of the drains, and it's pumped back out onto the street. So unless we lose all of our electricity, then we have other things to worry about. But it's a good question. Okay. Yes, we have one up here, Miles. Now they're going to go opposite corners because I told him he needed the steps to make up.
Kevin has 9 questions.
Luckily, they're all for the pastors.
You're terrible. Nathan, I believe you said that the new seating would be $896. Am I correct?
About $896.
Okay. Currently, this is $437. When you count it, so basically, we're going to double the seating.
$437. Yes.
On the next level down.
Okay.
First of all, I do appreciate the fact that you can come off the elevator and someone's in a wheelchair can't access the first level of the stage.
Correct.
Yeah, that's really great.
And they can come right across and join in with everybody else.
I couldn't follow your line. I missed that.
Okay. If you can come off the elevator and you can actually go across here and still have access all the way around this area, that's going to be the same level. And then you step up, and step up.
So is there wheelchair seating on that level, the raised level?
On the raised level, this whole front row, you would have access to be able to seat there for wheelchairs, yes.
Okay. My other questions are basically financial questions, so I think I'll probably wait for Tom.
Okay. Those questions we'll be answering in a little bit here.
Thank you. And now, here's mine.
All right, great. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Good questions.
Our answer men, so if we have questions, they'll be here to answer those as well. I was then asked to talk about the presentation of the costs, and again, we talked about those this morning. It's $3.5 million, the program, the plan, and we have $1.7 million saved, a little bit more than that, and so we would need 1.8 in order to go ahead with the project. We talked about that this morning as well. And the beauty of this is, that if we raise the money, we do. We go ahead. If we don't, we go another direction. And the beauty of that is it really does, I said this morning, it really does show God's direction in this matter. And so that's the most exciting part to me, because we don't have to, as leaders or pastors, try to be, pushing anything or trying to make something happen. We just float this as an opportunity and just see what God does as far as supporting it through the fellowship. Building programs are typically very divisive in churches. That's typically. I read the statistic once on building programs, and something like 80% of churches lose their pastor within a year or 6 months after a building plan. It's just tough on churches. And a lot of it is the disagreement about borrowing money. A lot of people are adverse to borrowing money. I get that. A lot of givers are adverse to borrowing money. And so what this does is it really does kind of take away the naysayers, because when the money's raised, it does kind of show that the church is behind it to a great extent, and it really brings a lot of unity and gratitude to God for what he accomplished. I did want to just a couple things about the columns downstairs. When we originally talked, Nathan said that really we have a pretty good building set up for line of sight. You had mentioned that. And also, if you go to a lot of churches that have a larger fellowship hall, they almost all have pillars like that. Calvary Chapel Philly does. Diamond Bar, California, where the pastors have their national pastor conference does. And they do just what they said. They have big screens. And so most of them you can get left or right, but there is a screen there to watch as well. And so that's the presentation of the cost. It's pretty. Is there anything else you wanted me to cover with that? The cost presentation? Dwayne? Okay. Oh, and I'm supposed to explain the pledge again.
Yeah.
So the idea is, again, Jesus said, don't begin construction of a building until you first count the cost and see if you have enough money to complete the project. So the idea of those forms is simply to let us know if the commitment from the church is here. And if it is, we'll go ahead. If it isn't, we won't. And somebody said, did you need to take a whole Sunday morning to present this? Well, I don't know how many 100 people we had here on a Sunday morning, but you see what's here tonight. If we would have had this presentation, if I would have given my message this morning just to you, 90% of the church would have no idea what we're talking about. And they'd get a 6-page email from me tomorrow morning, and they'd never read it. And if they did, they would be flooded with questions. So although my preference would be to do it another way, if we could have everybody that's here on a Sunday morning in all 3 services say, I promise you I will be there Sunday night. I promise you. That's what we would have done. But it doesn't work that way in reality. And so the biggest mistake we could have made is under-interpreting this plan. Because that's where we would get in trouble. Because questions come up from people because they assume something that's not correct because you never said what was correct, what you were going to do. Does that make sense? So it really was important that to keep unity, it's really important that the whole church heard the whole thing. So we all understand exactly what's going on as closely as we can present it. That helps maintain unity. Listen, if I would have done my presentation this morning just to you, next Sunday there would be an uprising in church because things would have gotten back. Did you hear they're taking away all the children's rooms? Did you hear that it would be all kinds of stuff? It just, because you know how that works, right? So that's the reason. Dwayne. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can I have that? Thank you. So just we'll start taking some questions, but I want to start first with the questions about the gym and the current ministries that are using the basement at the current time. So yes, we will be losing the gym. However, the floor, which is the gym now, all of those seats are stackable like these. And so we'll continue to be able to use that as a multi-purpose, but it probably will not be able to be used for skateboard ramps, indoor soccer, those types of things. We'll have to limit that. But because of that, we are looking for space within the city, close by, where we can have a gym and have those ministries in it. So we have looked at spaces already, including some buildings that are close to this one, and we're continuing to explore that. And we really trust that if the Lord leads us to do this renovation, that he will also provide the right gym space for us to use for that as well. Second part of that question.
Real briefly, yep. We did look at the Eagles Club over here, and that was up for sale. And we thought that could possibly be used for overflow. that we could have an overflow room there. It's a huge building, and have a remote service there, like a lot of churches do, big screen and all of that. And we thought about that. It would be expensive. We talked to South Lebanon Bible, where they did the same thing. Even on their site, they have a gymnasium attached to their sanctuary, and they hold a service in that room. And they rotated, with the pastor being in the main sanctuary one Sunday, and then the other Sunday out in the gymnasium live, and then the feed being at the other. And they wouldn't tell people where he was going to be, so the people couldn't try to get to where he was. And he said it was really a dismal failure. He said he would never recommend doing that. And that was where the building was in the same, the buildings were in the same building. And on the basis of that, we kind of walked away from that.
That plan was in lieu
of this.
In lieu of doing any renovations here.
Right.
Having two
Right.
service spaces.
We do have a location for a possible gym that would be adequate. Some of the leaders have been made aware of it. They've agreed to that it could be. And I really believe that, again, if God is in the middle of all this, and he is, if this is a part of it, we'll come up with a place to rent. And I wouldn't be surprised at some point down the road, we would even find a place to buy that would fit that purpose, because there are an increasing number of ministries that utilize that space. And there's really no reason why that needs to be attached to this building, as we've talked about that. They're separate, iron sharpen iron, the radicals. They can be in locations other than this building. So that's a possibility.
Yeah. So back in the basement then, so the kitchen will stay. It's going to get some upgrades to the kitchen. We'll be able to use it, continue to use it as a place for community meals and holiday events, those types of things. We'll be able to set up tables, chairs where the gym is now. We'll still be able to do that. Even along this back area here, one of the plans there is that all those seats will be able to be removed, as well as this large classroom in the back. So that could be seating.
They're collapsible risers.
Yeah, these are collapsible risers here. And then this would be space for there to be seating as well as this chapel where you're sitting now. The front half of this would be able to be used for, like, when we have the Christmas dinner outreach and those types of events. And so we'll still be able to have those same types of events here. So one of the questions that I'm anticipating is the question about parking. If we have an auditorium that seats 900 people, what are you going to do with parking? Especially those of you that attend second service now and you arrive and you find there's no parking. Well, there actually is quite a bit of parking. That's just not within where you typically look. And we'll show that to you as we proceed. We'll provide maps in that for you. But there is almost double the amount of parking that we have now that we use and we fill up every Sunday. There is that much more parking just within another block from where you typically park now. So we have looked at the parking area, and we'll show you that as we move forward. But within a block, this direction and that direction and that direction, there's a lot more parking.
Yeah, Dwayne did, one Sunday he did a walkthrough of that, and he found that Cumberland Street was practically no one was parked in Cumberland at all. And if you think about it, this alley right here on the other side of Hack, that's just a short walk to this back corner stairwell. And a lot of you, it would be almost as close where you're parking now to park there on the Cumberland Street and then walk here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parking there.
Yeah, the city has an improvement plan where they're going to take the alley that's over here, the street that's over here called Liberty Street, and they're going to make that a walkway. It's going to be repaved and plants and benches, all of that's going to be a walkway. So that'll go the whole way up to, how far does that go? Do you remember?
I don't.
Is it up to Walnut? Up to Walnut, yeah. So go right past all those parking lots that are on the other side of Cumberland Street as well. So.
And the mayor is looking at putting a parking garage right here. Now, it's been talked about, plans have been drawn up. We are, in the state of Pennsylvania, cities are listed by size of the city. And what size are we? What level, 2 or 3? Okay, we have a designation based on our size. But I know in the state of Pennsylvania, we are the only city in the state of Pennsylvania in that category size that has no parking garage. So there is a lot of interest in that, and that's one of the reasons that the city offices were put here, is that the mayor wanted to put a parking garage here as well. So it might happen, it could happen. It would be great if it did. In Lancaster, at least it used to be, Sunday parking was free. And so wouldn't that be nice if that was right here? So that is a possibility as well.
Yeah. So we'll take questions from you guys about anything that you have related to the building. Miles has the mic again. Do you have any more questions about anything at all? All right.
I was just told to ask you what length of time the renovation would take.
The length of time that the renovation would take, yeah.
They committed to 30 days.
30 days.
No, you don't need to get up.
He just didn't mention how many multiples of 30 that's going to be involved. But one advantage of this particular plan and being able to use this space is the phasing. You will be able to continue to worship while we're actually doing the renovation in various pieces. So you're not going to lose your worship space by taking each one of these areas and reworking them. So we can get out there and we can do the entrance. You may not be able to walk in the front door while we're renovating that. You have to come in the stair towers at the corners. But you're going to be able to phase this, come in, move into each space, occupy that space, and then move each one of those phases along. So you're always going to be able to worship and be able to function here as in your existing use. So
12 months from start to finish? 12 months.
Yes.
Did you notice his face color changed from the last time he was standing up? Yeah, so 12, and they think they could get started within 6 months of when we would, if we raise the funds. They would start within 6 months.
You can still agree to that?
Okay.
Thank you. Tom, you had said the renovation costs are $3.5 million.
Yes.
Does that include your soft costs, architectural fees, your furniture, any new furniture, fixtures, or equipment?
Yes.
So the chairs and everything would be...
It does not include some of the chairs, I think, or does it?
Yeah, I think
It does?
it has some, not all.
Has some, yeah, not all.
We didn't think we'd need them all right away.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
these chairs would be, some of these chairs would be used down there. That's figured in. They would probably be this same type of seating. So that hard seating that you see, even up in the risers, it would probably still be these same kinds of seats. So if you're picturing a movie theater, kick back, relax.
No.
We could get one for you, Kevin.
What's that?
We could get one of those for you if you'd like one.
No.
Okay,
thank you.
all right. Work
I
that
just
out,
wanted,
maybe.
I've just been through the process where some folks have left out the furniture, the fixtures, and equipment, so the number escalates.
Yes.
And I don't want to see the number escalate, so I'd rather have a realistic number with a contingency of what percentage, Nathan, of your construction cost?
And
What's that?
your
10%?
contingency.
Yeah, I think we're at 10%.
Yeah.
10% contingency.
And that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's just why I asked that question.
good question.
Related to that, Kevin, the two that Tom had talked about this morning about the potential of doing the HVAC for the whole building as well, which would be an additional 500. Yeah, and if all of that came in, then it would be ideal to do that all at the same time versus having to do that down the road.
But they will be upgrading the electric panel to support that someday down the road as well.
One thing, and I'll give the mic back to Miles, is while you're renovating the front, I'm not sure if you've probably given a thought, if not, but how people with wheelchairs and walkers will access the building during that time frame.
Yeah, we have to have that, so there's...
Oh, and the whole building will be sprinkled too, right? That's required, which is a big part of the expense. But it does add to a safety factor for the building as well. So there'll be sprinkler system throughout the entire building.
Other questions?
And I know you mentioned that radicals and the Taekwondo ministry would probably be moved off site, but could you explain how, like, where would the youth group meet and the, like, Kingdom Kids? I know you feed them usually every week and you feed the youth group when they come. How would that work?
Yeah, at present we see Kingdom Kids staying here in this, including the chapel space and then everything that they currently use now. And then youth group, young adults, radicals, the martial arts ministry, those would be at the new location. Youth group, yeah, most likely at this point, that's what the leadership is preferring, yeah.
Susan Dubbs asked this morning, she said, is it possible that this chapel could be used on Sunday morning for the children's ministry, their main worship together? And I thought, that would be a great use for this space. So that is a possibility as well.
We're also looking at another location for the Friday night Spanish ministry, their Friday night service as well. Looking at a space for them until this area is done, and then we'll need to figure out whether the Friday night U-turn service goes downstairs and the Spanish ministry is up here or whatever. We haven't worked out all those logistics yet, but we'll be working on those.
It really will make that, like the Friday night when the Hispanic ministry meets, when U-turn meets. Now they'll have, those two can share, use between them, this area and also the large area downstairs, which really upgrades the Hispanic ministry substantially to a much nicer venue than they have now. What's the what? The number of children that attend on a Sunday morning?
I don't know, Miles.
Miles,
Any
you
idea?
know that number? Yeah. Okay, 125, 150 children.
Just 2 services, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, something that nobody asked is, would you be staying at the 3 services, or would you go back to 2? I think we would be staying at 3 to begin with, probably hoping even to stay at that. And the reason is, it's harder to stop something and start something new than it is to keep something going that's already going. There are a couple other reasons for that. There are a number of people that attend other churches and come here as well, and they have all those service time things figured out. So that's what we're planning initially. Yep.
You've used up all your questions.
So this comes from the heart of a church planter and overseas, and I'm excited for a church that grows and grows. It's wonderful, but I also want it to multiply. And so, in some part, I know, okay, so we've doubled the capacity. That's great. And then we fill that up, then what? So I still think there has to be a vision for expanding and multiplying the church.
Yeah.
And I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought. When I was at Midway, Church of the Brethren, we were running out of space when I was still a member there. And they had 2 committees, and I was the chairman of the one committee. The one committee was, should we build? And the other one, it was, should we plant another church instead? Good plan. And I was in charge of, should we plant another church? And all the research that we did, that our committee did, we discovered that churches that do church plants, because of the plant, they grow as well. It causes them to grow. So the idea that by planting a church, we're going to take pressure off of our church's needs, it does just the opposite. It brings in energy, it brings in excitement, it brings people that come along that vision and join that church, in part because of that. It doesn't help the problem. If a growing church is a problem, planting a church does not help that problem. Yeah. So that's just reality. Yeah.
But part of that just as well, just so you know, we are thinking about those things, and Pastor Lorenzo has a lot of experience in church planting. So he has a series of churches that he planted in Argentina when he was there before he moved to the United States. And I think he's planted 6 churches here.
Not sure.
In various cities. And we're learning a lot from him in that process as well. We would love to see more churches started in surrounding areas that don't have to be far from here, as well as if the Lord led us to start something elsewhere as well. That's certainly in our plans and vision.
Initially, to add to that, when we did plant a church out of Midway, it was only 3 miles away from Midway, and there was only 34 people who left the church. If you recall.
All right. No, I didn't remember that.
Yes, that was all it was. Question I have is that the existing building is, I don't know whether this is part of any of the plans or not, but to replace things like windows and existing lighting to upgrade some of that stuff as well, or are we going to wait on that till another date?
So the lighting in the basement will be new.
I'm thinking of like the classrooms and then all the windows are replaced.
Yeah, so I think the rule of thumb on that was if we're renovating a space, we're upgrading that space. But if we're not renovating that space, really the only thing that's happening there is sprinklers. Okay.
Yeah, we did talk about windows. That was in our discussion because we know that would be nice to do, but it was not a part of the proposal. Yeah. Yeah, on the front. Yeah, all the front windows get replaced. And the lower level windows, yeah, which are half exposed.
We have a few minutes left. Anybody else? Four services.
Yeah, Lou.
Just pass it.
Will your gym site where youth group meets also need a kitchen? Or will you transport stuff from this kitchen?
That's a great question. Ideally, it would have kitchen space. Ideally.
Especially if down the road we buy something, that changes all that. Then we do what we want to do and we go with that. It'd be nice to have a community center. We have no idea what God could do through all this. We just don't know what God could do. I think he'd have a great plan for that as well when we need to go that direction. We have talked to a number of different people. The man that we get our warehouse space from has a whole lot of warehouses in Lebanon, and I've asked him if he would have something available that would be heated, we could use. We talked to Bob Hoke, the Hoke building down here. I don't know if that's sold yet. I'm not sure if it's sold. But that would be a decent building. And so we've talked to other places. Like I say, we do have a place in mind that would be a good location for all those ministries. So, I think when we'd be ready and the need would be there, I think God would bring the right building to us. I really do. Yes?
It's just an FYI. I know that Bob Hoke's building did sell.
Did it? Thank you. Yeah. So that's no longer considered. Thank you.
I think we're good. So we're meeting again Thursday evening, if pretty much identical presentation of what is today. The anticipation that some couldn't come out tonight that would like to. This is recorded online on YouTube, and so it's available there as well if you know of somebody that wasn't here that would like to view or hear the presentation or see. There are more pictures in the back. They'll make a whole lot more sense now that you heard the presentation, and so take a minute to look at those, and you can email Miles with any questions. Email Miles with any questions, and Miles will get the answers. It's milesd@ccleb.com. Yeah. Closing prayer?
Yeah. Hey, this is a real opportunity to bring unity to the fellowship and to build faith and confidence that God really does pay as he goes, that God really can provide. And Now, you're going to think I'm really strange for saying this. But, you know, if the money isn't raised, if it's an abject failure as far as the money coming in, it would also be a huge lesson to this fellowship and all the people. It really would. I'm not trying to...
Maybe not to these guys. Maybe not to the funk guys.
Not to the funk company, but it really would. Because we are absolutely sincere. We don't want this if God isn't in this.
That's right.
And that's going to be evident if the funds aren't raised. And for the congregation to see that we rejoice in that clear direction given to us, because we will. It's just so simple. And, you know, as we've said, our policy has been to be debt-free from the very beginning. I think the church should model this. If the church doesn't model this, where will people see it? Why should individuals model this and the church not? It ought to be modeled on the church level, and then people learn, experience, think about, maybe I should do the same thing. Wow, what a blessing that would be to a fellowship to see that. That happened the last building, and we'll see what happens this time.
Yep. And when we don't have a huge mortgage expense, we can do the beautiful ministries that we do. You know, we have 20-some beds available for ladies. We have the pantry, you know, all types of ministries that we would not be able to do if we were straddled with a very heavy mortgage. And it's such a better way of doing church.
And think of all the buildings we bought. We bought the women's shelter after we bought this building cash. We bought Hathaway House for U-turn cash. We bought the first phase house for the U-turn building cash. We bought the Door of Hope across the street cash. We had the building given to us on 8th Street by the kindness of the county commissioners. So, I mean...
We bought a house for Rock Ministries in Philadelphia with cash.
We bought a house for Rock Ministries in Philadelphia to do ministry down there, cash. Yeah, so God's been so faithful. And we still have,
Yeah, we've been working on this, anticipating this for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years of saving and planning and knowing that at some time we'll get to this place where we need to do something. Something needs to happen. And so that has been part of the strategy.
Yeah, you've heard me say this before, but I am convinced that one of the reasons we've been so blessed financially is because we have a heart to care for the poor.
Yeah.
Because the Bible said God cares for those who care for the poor. And I really think that he has, because just think about it, doesn't it make sense? If God finds a group of people that are wanting to take care of the poor, the disadvantaged, and people caught in addiction, doesn't it make sense that he would want to give them maybe a disproportionate amount of money to enable those projects to continue to go forward? I mean, he loves all his children. If you find a ministry that's giving food to his children, don't you think he'd want to enable them to continue to do it? You know, that speaks to 54 skids coming in last week of food. Brian doesn't ask, can I get 54 skids? He says, what am I going to do with 54 skids? You know, and all the pieces that go with that. I really believe, you know, I'm wrong about a lot of things. And when we get to heaven, you know, I might be wrong on this one. And if I am, you come and tell me you found that I'm wrong. But I suspect when we get to heaven, we're all going to realize the reason God blessed us as he did financially was because of that. Primarily because of that. Yeah. Can I close in prayer? Father, we thank you for this opportunity to demonstrate, as Dwayne said this morning, your sovereignty, your love for us, your involvement in every aspect of our lives. And Lord, if you provide these funds through the people in this fellowship, it will give evidence of your direction. If you withhold the funds, it will give evidence of your direction. Father, we will rejoice on either side of that because it clearly will tell us what direction you want us to go. And Lord, I pray that you continue to keep unity in this fellowship, Lord, that this would be an event that brings us together versus tears us apart. That it would be a project that blesses, and as we said this morning, at the last project, that enables evangelism to grow. It allows more people to be brought into the kingdom, for the kingdom to be strengthened and enlarged, for more ministry to be able to take place in this place. So Lord, we commit this to you, and we pray that you would be honored and glorified through all that takes place through this process. And we pray this in Christ's name, and all of God's people said, amen. Hey, let's thank Nathan and Stephen for coming out tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you. God bless you all. Hey, answer some questions for a little bit if you'd like to ask some.